Welcome to Learn English with Podcast. Today, our amazing hosts, Luca and Maria, are here to take you through another exciting episode. Luca, Maria, over to you.
Okay, so have you ever had that thing where you're like super psyched about a goal? Like you want to learn a new language or get in shape or like really make progress in your career.
Yeah.
You start out strong, right? You've got all this energy. But then things just sort of fizzle out.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there's this gap between what you want to do and what actually happens.
I think a lot of people experience that,
Yeah,
for sure.
And it can be super frustrating.
Definitely. And you know what's really fascinating is that a lot of times the key to bridging that gap, to actually making those intentions a reality, comes down to self-discipline.
Self-discipline.
It's what helps us stay on track even when that initial excitement fades.
That's so true because I feel like we've talked about self-discipline before, and it's like this multifaceted thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about willpower. It's about habits and mindset and even how our brains work.
Exactly. It's just a complex interplay of factors.
So we're going to do a deep dive today
Yes.
into some really interesting stuff about self-discipline. And I think what we're aiming for is to pull out like the most actionable stuff.
Absolutely.
The stuff that people can actually use in their own lives.
Practical strategies and key insights.
To help close that gap between wanting to do something and actually doing it.
Love it.
So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
One of the things that really stuck with me was this idea of starting small,
Okay.
like really small.
Tiny habits.
Yes, exactly. Tiny habits.
It's this idea of breaking down those huge goals into these actions that almost seem insignificant.
Right, because if you think about it, we often set these big, ambitious goals.
Oh, yeah. New Year's resolution.
Exactly, New Year's resolution.
Classic.
And then we feel overwhelmed.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm going to learn a new language this year.
Oh, my gosh.
Where do I even start?
It's daunting.
It's totally daunting.
So this is where the tiny habits come in. Instead of saying, I'm going to practice for an hour every day,
Yeah.
you start with 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
That feels so much more doable.
Right. It's like you can't say no to 5 minutes.
You can't.
And I remember reading something about making habits so easy you can't say no.
Yes.
That was a really powerful concept.
So how does that work? Like, what's the thinking behind that?
Well, the idea is that our brains kind of resist big changes.
Yeah.
So if you start with something tiny,
Great.
it's like it slips under the radar.
Sneaking it in.
Exactly. You're not triggering that fear of failure or feeling like it's a huge effort.
So you build momentum slowly.
Exactly. Consistency over time leads to significant results.
Without feeling stressed.
Without feeling overwhelmed.
That's huge because I think a lot of people give up on things because they just feel too stressed out.
Oh, absolutely. Like they set themselves up for failure from the start.
Yeah.
With these unrealistic expectations.
So start small, build momentum. That's a key takeaway.
I love it.
Another thing we talked about was shifting the focus from goals to systems.
Ah, yes. That's a powerful one.
So what's the difference there?
Well, a goal is like the destination,
Okay.
but a system is the roadmap that gets you there.
The how-to.
Exactly. And it's about having a structure in place to make sure you're consistently moving towards that goal.
So instead of just saying, I want to be fluent in a new language,
Right.
you actually create a plan for how you're going to study.
Yes. Specific actions you're going to take each day.
Like maybe 10 minutes of practice every morning?
Exactly. Or listening to a podcast on your commute.
Right. So it becomes part of your routine.
It is integrated into your life.
And that's what makes it more sustainable.
Because you're not relying on motivation alone.
Which can be so fickle.
It comes and goes.
Yeah. You can't just wait for motivation to strike.
You need a system.
A system that'll carry you through.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Even when you'd rather be doing something else.
That's the beauty of it.
Okay, so starting small and focusing on systems.
2 great strategies.
But there's more.
There's always more.
We also talked about making habits attractive.
Oh, yes. This is about making discipline enjoyable.
Because if it feels like a chore,
it's not going to last.
You're going to resist it.
Exactly. So you want to find ways to make the process itself rewarding.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, you can think about pairing your goal with something you enjoy.
Like a reward.
A reward. Or just something that makes it more fun.
So if you're learning a language,
you could watch your favorite show in that language.
After a study session.
Exactly. Or treat yourself to a nice coffee.
Okay, so it's like positive reinforcement.
Exactly. You're training your brain to associate the habit with pleasure.
So it becomes something you look forward to.
Exactly. And that makes a huge difference in the long run.
Because it's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate.
It's about finding ways to make it enjoyable.
Which makes it so much easier to stick with.
Absolutely. It's about working with your brain, not against it.
So we've got starting small systems and making habits attractive.
3 powerful tools.
But there's another important factor, our environment.
Our environment is so crucial.
Because it can either support our efforts
or sabotage them.
Totally. Like, if my workspace is cluttered and full of distractions,
it's going to be so hard to focus.
I'm going to be fighting an uphill battle.
Right. So you want to design your environment for success.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, it depends on your goal, but for example, if you want to exercise more,
you could keep your workout clothes visible.
Yes. Make it easy to grab them and go.
Or if you're trying to eat healthier,
you could remove unhealthy snacks from your home.
so you're not tempted.
Exactly. You're making the healthy choice, the easy choice.
And it's not just about physical things, right?
I know. It's also about the people you surround yourself with.
The people you spend time with can have a big influence on your habits.
If you're hanging out with people who are supportive of your goals
They can help you stay motivated.
and accountable.
And on the flip side, if you're surrounded by people who are constantly tempting you to stray from your path,
It's going to be much harder to stay disciplined.
so choose your company wisely.
It makes a difference.
Now, we also talked about the importance of managing our willpower and energy levels.
This is a key aspect.
Because willpower is not unlimited,
It's a finite resource.
like a muscle that gets tired.
Exactly. And it's important to understand this.
Because if we try to use willpower for everything,
we're going to burn out.
so how do we manage it effectively?
Well, one strategy is to schedule the most important tasks
The ones that require the most willpower,
for the times of day when your energy is highest.
which for a lot of people is the morning.
Right. So if you need to do something that requires a lot of focus and discipline
Do it first thing.
before you get drained by the day's demands.
And another thing is to create routines and automate decisions,
Yes. This helps to conserve mental energy.
because you're not constantly having to make choices.
The decisions are already made.
So you're not using up your willpower.
It becomes automatic.
So managing willpower is key.
Absolutely. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about this framework of discipline, where there's behavioral discipline and attitudinal discipline.
Yes, this is a really interesting distinction.
So can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So behavioral discipline, or discipline B,
Okay.
is about those outward actions.
The things you can see and measure,
Exactly. It's about following the rules and doing what needs to be done.
regardless of how you feel.
Exactly. And a classic example of this is military boot camp,
Oh, yeah.
where they have these incredibly structured days,
Strict rules.
immediate consequences for any infractions.
It's all about instilling discipline through external forces.
Exactly. It's about learning to obey orders
And follow through.
without questioning.
So you're basically overriding your own preferences.
In a way, yes, you're putting the mission first.
So how does this relate to attitudinal discipline?
Well, the idea is that by consistently practicing discipline B,
Okay.
you can actually cultivate discipline A.
Which is that internalized discipline mindset.
It becomes part of your character.
So it's like you're training yourself to become a more disciplined person.
Yeah. Exactly, by repeatedly acting in a disciplined way.
Even when it's hard.
You're strengthening those neural pathways.
So how can we apply this framework to our own lives?
Well, first, we need to set clear standards for ourselves.
Like rules and plans for the behaviors we want to adopt.
Exactly. And then we need to uphold those standards.
With no compromises.
Just like in the military.
No bending the rules for ourselves.
It's about being accountable to yourself.
Which can be tough.
It can be, but it's crucial.
And starting small is important here too.
Absolutely. Starting with small, achievable standards.
So you can build a track record of success.
Before tackling those bigger challenges.
Like the saying, make your bed.
Yes. It's a small action, but it sets the tone for the day.
A small victory.
Exactly. And it reinforces that sense of self-discipline.
So discipline B can lead to discipline A.
Over time and with practice.
Discipline is a skill.
It's not something you're born with.
It's something you develop.
Through consistent effort.
Now let's move on to some more philosophical ideas about discipline. Drawing from some really interesting wisdom.
This is where things get really deep.
Yeah. And one of the key takeaways was this idea of not pursuing pleasure for its own sake.
Yes. This is about prioritizing long-term goals and meaning over instant gratification.
So it's not about denying yourself pleasure altogether.
No, it's about being mindful of how you pursue it.
And making sure it aligns with your values.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that sometimes you need to delay gratification.
To achieve something greater.
It's about playing the long game.
And this is so relevant in today's world.
Where we're constantly bombarded with distractions.
And temptations.
It's so easy to get caught up in the instant gratification cycle.
And lose sight of what truly matters.
So it's about consciously choosing to focus on those things that bring lasting fulfillment.
Over those that offer temporary pleasure.
And this ties into another key insight.
Which is the power of focused attention.
Yes. This is about dedicating yourself to mastering one thing.
And going deep.
It's about resisting the urge to spread yourself too thin.
Which can be hard in a world where there are so many options.
It's about choosing a path and sticking to it.
Even when there are tempting detours.
It's about recognizing that true mastery comes from sustained effort.
And focus.
Not from dabbling in a million different things.
And another principle that resonated with me was this idea of staying focused on your path.
Yes, never straying from the way.
It's about having a clear sense of purpose.
And aligning your actions with that purpose.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
It's about resisting those temptations that pull you away from your goals.
It's about staying true to yourself.
And finally, there's the emphasis on living with integrity.
Ah, yes. This is about having a strong moral compass.
And acting in accordance with your value.
It's about being honest and trustworthy.
And treating others with respect.
And it's about holding yourself to a high standard.
Because when you live with integrity,
you're essentially practicing self-discipline in every area of your life.
Your actions are aligned with your beliefs.
And that creates a sense of inner harmony.
So we've explored a lot of different perspectives on discipline.
From practical strategies to philosophical principles.
But now let's dive into the science of it all.
Okay.
How does discipline actually work in our brains?
This is where things get really fascinating.
So tell me about it.
Well, one of the key concepts is something called limbic friction.
Limbic friction.
It's that internal resistance we feel.
When we have to do something we don't want to do.
Even if we know it's good for us.
Like that feeling of, I don't want to go to the gym.
Exactly. Or, I really should study, but I'd rather watch TV.
It's that battle between our rational minds.
And our more impulsive desires.
And it's rooted in our brain's reward system.
Which is designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
So how do we overcome this limbic friction?
Well, that's where top-down control comes in.
Top-down control?
It's our conscious effort to override those impulses.
To make ourselves do the things we know we should do.
Exactly. And one way to strengthen our top-down control
is to focus on the positive outcomes of our actions.
So instead of dwelling on how much you don't want to go to the gym,
you think about how good you'll feel afterwards.
Or how much stronger you'll be.
And that can actually trigger the release of dopamine.
Which is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation.
So you're basically hacking your brain's reward system.
To work in your favor.
And the cool thing is that this ability to override limbic friction is a skill that can be developed.
Through practice.
Just like any other skill.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And there was also this interesting idea of talking to yourself in the third person.
Yes. This is a technique that can help to create some psychological distance.
From your immediate emotions.
So instead of saying, I'm feeling so overwhelmed right now.
You say you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to take a break.
And this can actually help to calm you down.
And make it easier to make rational decisions.
Because you're not so caught up in the emotional whirlwind.
It's like you're giving yourself advice from a more objective perspective.
Exactly. And another important aspect of building discipline
is experiencing that sense of satisfaction after you've accomplished something.
That feeling of, I did it.
It's like a reward that reinforces the behavior.
And makes you more likely to repeat it in the future.
So it's important to celebrate those wins.
No matter how small.
Because they all add up.
To create a positive feedback loop.
That strengthens your self-discipline.
And speaking of rewards, there was an interesting point about varying them.
Yes. The idea of sometimes rewarding yourself and sometimes not.
This is called intermittent reinforcement.
And it can actually be more effective than rewarding yourself every time.
Because it keeps your brain guessing.
And prevents you from becoming too reliant on external rewards.
It's like a little surprise.
That keeps you motivated.
And speaking of motivation, we also talked about the importance of managing dopamine levels.
Yes, because dopamine is a powerful neurotransmitter.
That plays a key role in motivation and pleasure.
But too much dopamine can actually be a bad thing.
It can lead to addiction and desensitization.
So it's important to avoid overloading your brain with dopamine.
By limiting exposure to highly stimulating activities.
Like social media and video games.
And focusing on activities that provide more balanced and sustainable rewards.
And finally, we can't forget about the importance of sleep,
Sleep is crucial for everything.
including self-discipline.
When you're sleep deprived, your willpower is weaker.
You're more irritable and impulsive.
And it's harder to focus.
So good sleep hygiene is essential.
Absolutely prioritize getting enough sleep.
Make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool.
And avoid caffeine and screens before bed.
Because when you're well rested,
You're much better equipped to handle the challenges of the day.
and to stay on track with your goals.
It's amazing how interconnected everything is.
From our habits to our mindset to our brain chemistry.
It's all part of the self-discipline puzzle.
And the key is to find the strategies that work best for you
And to keep experimenting.
until you find what helps you thrive.
It's a journey.
A journey of self-discovery.
And self-improvement.
So here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
What is one small standard you can implement today to start strengthening your own self-discipline?
That's a great question.
It doesn't have to be anything major.
It's just a small step in the right direction.
Something you can commit to doing consistently
To build that momentum.
and to start creating a more disciplined life.
I love that.
So if you enjoyed this deep dive and found it valuable,
Please share it with someone who might benefit from it.
and be sure to subscribe
To stay tuned for more explorations.
into the fascinating world of personal growth.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
See us then.
All right, let's ditch the textbook tone and dive into the thrilling world of self-discipline, shall we? Imagine your brain as a high-performance sports car, but instead of horsepower, it runs on willpower. Now, like any car, it needs fuel, maintenance, and a skilled driver. That's where we come in. Ever felt like your willpower tank hits empty by mid-afternoon? That's your prefrontal cortex, the brain's control center, waving a white flag. It's like a muscle. You can pump it up, but you can also exhaust it. So, how do we become brain gymnastics champions? First, let's play goal architect. Forget those vague New Year's resolutions that vanish by February. Think Lego bricks, not skyscrapers. Break down those colossal goals into bite-sized, ridiculously achievable steps. Want to write a novel? Start with a daily 100-word sprint. It's like building a sandcastle, one scoop at a time. Now for the if-then magic trick. Imagine you a superhero, and your kryptonite is social media. If I feel the urge to scroll, then I will do 10 jumping jacks. Boom. UV just reprogrammed a reaction, turning impulse into action. It's like hacking your brain's operating system. Let's talk environment, your personal distraction dungeon. Is your desk a chaotic battleground of half-finished projects and tempting snacks? Time for a makeover. Think minimalist Zen garden, not hoarder's paradise. Hide the chips, silence the notifications, and create a sanctuary for focus. Now for a sneaky tactic. Temptation tag team. Love binge-watching your favorite show? Only allow yourself to indulge while folding laundry or hitting the treadmill. It's like tricking your brain into enjoying chores. Suddenly, folding socks feels like a reward. Ever tried meditating? It's not just for monks on mountaintops. Think of it as a mental spa day. Close your eyes, breathe, and watch your thoughts float by like clouds. Not judging, just observing. It's like training a puppy. Patience and consistency are key. And speaking of training, your body is your willpower's trusty sidekick. Sleep like a champion, eat like a fuel-efficient machine, and move like a ninja. Forget crash diets and all-nighters. They willpower kryptonite. Now, grab a journal or fire up a tracking app. Become your own personal data analyst. Track your habits, celebrate your victories, and learn from your stumbles. It's like keeping a video game scorecard, leveling up your self-discipline with every win. And when procrastination whispers sweet lies in your ear, unleash the 2-minute tsunami. Break down that daunting task into a tiny 2-minute sprint. Once you re-rolling, momentum will carry you forward. It's like lighting a firework. The initial spark ignites a chain reaction. Let's dissect the habit hero formula. Cue, routine, reward. It's the secret sauce of lasting change. Want to build a morning workout habit? Set a daily alarm. Cue. Do a quick 15-minute routine. And reward yourself with a delicious smoothie. It's like training a pet. Associate the desired behavior with a positive outcome. But what about those days when you slip up? We've all been there. time for a cognitive reboot. Reframe those challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of "I failed," think "I learned." It's like turning a plot twist into a character development moment. Don't be a lone wolf. Surround yourself with your accountability avengers. Find friends, family, or online communities who share your goals. They'll be your cheerleaders, your coaches, and your partners in crime. It's like forming a superhero team, each member contributing their unique powers. And when you inevitably face setbacks, remember to be kind to yourself. Practice self-compassion superpowers. Treat yourself like a friend, not a drill sergeant. Acknowledge your struggles, forgive your mistakes, and keep moving forward. It's like giving yourself a motivational pep talk. Finally, remember that self-discipline isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's a continuous process of experimentation, adaptation, and growth. It's like learning a new language. You'll stumble, you'll make mistakes, but with practice, you'll become fluent. So grab your willpower toolkit, embrace the challenges, and become the master of your own mind. It's time to unleash your inner self-discipline superhero.
Thank you for watching. Your journey to better English and unstoppable confidence starts here. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep growing together. See you in the next video, champion.